I think the things I've noticed is there seem to be more people in the smaller breakout sessions than there was last year. But I don't know. I haven't been walking around with a calculator counting, but the crowd, there seems to be more activity than there was last year. That, to be really honest, I've really only gone to things that I've been involved in because I've been using. This is an excellent place to do a lot of networking, and in my role as editor of PRSA's Public Relations Journal, I've had to meet with some of the editorial board members or try to recruit other new members and things like that, and that's best to do out in hall around sessions and things like that. Well, I think when I'm asked that question, I go back to I think the perfect answer to that question is Harold Burson's response to it when people ask Harold, how have things changed over the 60 or 70 years that he's been working in our field, and my appointment at Boston University is the Harold Burson Professor and Chair in Public Relations. So I admire Harold in all kinds of ways, and what Harold says is that when he first entered this business in the late 1940s, early 1950s, that basically he was hired to help answer the question, how should we say it? What to say, what to do, and how to do it had been determined by others, and we were just brought in as the publicity people, very much into a one-way communication situation of being the wordsmiths. Over time, as Harold likes to point out, we progressed from when they trusted us with answering the how to say it question, then they let us get involved in the what should we say, and so we were involved in helping clients and organizations answer the question, what should we say in addition to how should we say it. And then that progressed over time into more two-way communication situations. So today, that with the successful companies, you will find that public relations people are part of the organization's dominant coalition. They're at the table making the decisions, so that they're involved in helping a company decide what to do, how to do it, what to say, and how to say it. So I think that sort of wraps up how the field has changed. It's playing a huge role, but it needs to be, I think, examined as a tool to communicate messages, and that it's not a separate strategy item. I mean, the same kinds of messages that were delivered 50, 60 years ago by newspapers and by radio can be delivered much more effectively in certain social media platforms today. For the last 5 years, I've been doing a study every year on how social media is impacting public relations and how public relations people are using social media. And we've seen a lot of dramatic changes. The one interesting thing that's happened with social media and public relations, we're now basically into our third year where we've had the social media networks, principally Facebook and to a much lesser extent, but an ever increasing extent, LinkedIn, and then microblogging sites such as Twitter. That I still can't believe that nobody's come along to sort of as Facebook sort of came along and displaced MySpace on the social media scene. That I've been waiting for something to come along to push Twitter out of the way, given all the Twitter restrictions, the 140 characters and so forth and so on. But that just hasn't happened. The one thing I have noticed, though, is that people do tend, particularly with Twitter, they do tend to take things out of context, and there's almost this, I got to get my message out there first. And I've seen some major mistakes made, and I've actually been, in the last 4 months, I've been to 2 meetings, conference-type meetings, where people were asked, please do not Twitter, please do not send out Facebook messages during the meeting, and it was because speakers didn't want things they were saying taken out of context, and that's that. And so while social media has tremendous potential, it also, we have to be very, very careful how we use it, because if we use it ineffectively, then we negate all of its potential. Students, all of my students are basically under 35, and that's the crowd that really no longer turns much to traditional media. And any studies that show that they're getting news and information from traditional media, if you probe a little more deeply, they might be getting it from television, but it's not necessarily a traditional NBC, CBS, ABC thing. They're getting it from the Colbert Report or Jon Stewart, which, granted, comes via a traditional medium as in television, but really wouldn't fall much into that category. One of the interesting things of watching students and their availability to use traditional media or the newer non-traditional media at Boston University each weekday, that we have racks of papers, newspapers there. And so for free, at absolutely no cost to the student, they could pick up a copy of the New York Times, the Boston Globe, the Wall Street Journal is there, as is USA Today. I've been amazed at how few students take advantage of that opportunity, instead preferring to get the news on their iPhones or Blackberries and so forth and so on. I think that's a very interesting measure. Well, I'm very fortunate in that for a number of years I've served as a member of the Board of Trustees of the Arthur W. Page Society, and I'm also on the board of the Institute for Public Relations. And then I've been very active in PRSA, so I'm tied into a lot of networks, and I often hear from people, before things are changing. I think sometimes, though, with change, you have to stand back, take a look at it in a deeper and bigger picture, and I try to do that as well.